welcome to Dr. Sally's Kitchen. I'm Dr. Sally Lamont, coming to you live from San Rafael, California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, with part 2 of my series that I decided to call Using Food as Medicine to Strengthen Your Immunity and Grow Your Health. Because there's so much we can do during this time that we're sheltering in place to actually become more healthy instead of just eat all the sugar-filled foods that give us immediate pleasure. One of the things that I thought would be fun to teach you how to do is chai, because it has some of those flavors that we associate with comfort food, cinnamon and ginger and clove, but we don't need to get them out of, big gooey sweet rolls. We can get them in a really clean, health-promoting tea. And so I just want to talk about tea for a minute, because you may not know that all tea comes from one plant, Camellia sinensis. Now, this is the tea we think about. Now, herb teas are separate, but all tea that is the conventional form of tea comes from Camellia sinensis. And whether it is the first youngest tea, the white tea, or a green tea, or a more oxidized black tea, all comes from one plant, just as a matter of how it's been processed and how old it is. So tea is just full of these phytochemicals that promote our health. And one of them you're very familiar with, and that's caffeine, because it gives us that buzz. But I think you'll be happy to know that tea has less caffeine in it than coffee. A cup of black tea has around 40 milligrams of caffeine, a cup of green tea about 30, whereas a cup of coffee has 80 milligrams or up. So another thing that's really wonderful about tea, and especially green tea, is that it contains something called theanine. Now, theanine is an amino acid, one of the building blocks of protein, and it shows up in this tea, but I love it because it balances the stimulating effects of caffeine. Tea actually helps improve our focus and has some cognitive benefits, but interestingly, theanine in especially green tea has a calming effect on the body, and it modulates neurotransmitters like serotonin that produce that relaxed, happy feeling. And then there's one more phytonutrient in tea I have to tell you about called EGCG. And that's the one you may have heard of before for its cancer-fighting properties. It's really got powerful effects on the immune system. It helps our body recognize cancer cells. It has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, and keeps cancer cells from replicating as quickly. So that's just a little blurb about tea in general. Really powerful, and the hot steaming effect of a cup of hot tea actually relaxes the airways, improves circulation, and helps our body clear mucus. So if you are working to fight off a respiratory infection, drinking hot tea really helps. So we're going to get this party started. I've got 6 cups of hot water boiling, and to it I'm going to go ahead and actually start with the herbs that I call flavor bombs. They're the spices, and the first one up to bat is ginger. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that in. You guys know ginger root. You've seen it before. It is an incredibly powerful compound that inhibits viral replication and tends to help keep the virus from penetrating the cell wall. Now, I want to give you a disclaimer here. We don't know that it works on COVID-19 or the SARS-2 coronavirus we're dealing with now. So all these benefits I'm talking about are related to studies that have been done mostly on cell cultures, sometimes in animal cultures, sometimes in humans. But we do know that ginger has some powerful benefits. It obviously helps to quell nausea and settle the stomach, but its ability to inhibit viral replication is what makes me want to put it in here. And I'm going to go ahead and just get these spices going. Some cloves, And I'm using the little seeds from cardamom. I'm going to get them going and then I'm going to tell you about it. Black pepper, there we go. And cinnamon. Of course, you know that, but we're using the cinnamon stick here, and I'm going to break it apart. And, you know, how much you use really kind of depends on the size of the cinnamon stick. Those were big ones, so I just used 1.5. Now, one thing you want to do is I'm using a muddler here. You might have one of these if you like to make a mojito, the mint drink from the Caribbean. You need to have a muddler. But anything can be used to just kind of get down there and crunch up those spices to release their aromatic oils. And we're just going to let this simmer here for a minute while I tell you about the health benefits of each of these things. So, we talked briefly about ginger. Now I'm going to tell you about the second thing that I put in, which is clove. Its botanical name, I'm going to tell you because I just think it's so fun. Syzygium. It's aromatica, Syzygium aromatica, and it really is aromatic. I mean, if you could smell the scent coming off of here, you would know that there are aromatic oils in these herbs that are percolating away here. Now, a lot of people know clove because if you've had a kid, you can use clove on the baby's teeth. It penetrates down into the gum, and they know it helps to relieve pain. But it also has some really powerful antiviral effects that have been studied. And not just antiviral, but antimicrobial in general. Eugenol is the main compound in clove that gives it its antimicrobial properties. So it's in there. And, you know, normally just put in 3 or 4. I think I put in quite a handful because I poured out enough to show you what it looks like. But clove is actually the flower of this, I could say it before this, Syzygium aromatica. So it's a flower bud, a dried flower bud, and it's got a lot of aromatic oils. And then cardamom is one of my favorite herbs. Cardamom comes in little pods like this, but when you chop them up and pound them open, out comes a bunch of little black seeds, and that's actually the cardamom that we use. And you may know cardamom from hot cross buns at Easter time, but it's a spice that's used all over Europe and India and the Middle East. And cardamom has its own antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and it looks like it helps to reduce blood pressure. I put a little powdered cardamom in my, I have 1 espresso each morning, and I put a couple of shakes of cardamom powder into that. I understand that it also helps to increase resveratrol levels, and so it's got some resveratrol in it. So cardamom's an herb all by itself, or a spice rather. I think of them as flavor bombs. So I'm using that. And then there's cinnamon, and of course you guys all know cinnamon, but what you may not know about cinnamon is it has some really powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. One of the most interesting things about cinnamon is it helps to lower blood sugar, and it improves insulin sensitivity. You know, a third of our population has diabetes, and another third has pre-diabetes. So anything we can do to improve insulin function and help keep blood sugar balanced is what we want to do. So another one of the herbs we threw in was black pepper. And now this gives it that little bite at the back of your throat. And black pepper, or Piper nigerum, has its own medicinal properties. And this may sound like a broken record when I say it's got antioxidant and anti-inflammatory benefits, and it looks like it has the ability to lower cholesterol and improve cardiovascular function. It's because so many plant compounds have these actions. And if we don't eat them, then they're not in there doing their magic on our cells. These phytochemicals have the ability to interact with receptors in the nucleus of the cell and help it to operate properly and improve gene expression, basically reducing our risk of cancer and building health. So once this has percolated away here for a few minutes and those aromatic oils are starting to be infused into the water, because tea is really an infusion of these herbs and spices into the water, then we add black tea. And you can do this with green tea. In fact, I encourage you to experiment. Try different kinds of tea. You can use a plain kind of Lipton tea bag or a nice Darjeeling tea, English breakfast, not English breakfast, because English breakfast has another compound in it that we don't want to use. No, it's Earl Grey. Sorry, Earl Grey is the one that has bergamot. So don't use Earl Grey, but you can use English breakfast or a Scottish breakfast or just any basic tea for making this. In fact, in India, they just use not a high quality tea. So it's not really about the high quality. It's just a black tea is what's most commonly used. So we're just gonna let this steep here for the next couple of minutes while I talk to you about the next step in making chai. Really, this just only has to go for 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're gonna strain it. So, in India, they love the cow. They consider the cow sacred, and they will use plain cow's milk in all of their tea. Now, we're aware that milk has some allergenic properties. First of all, not really allergic, but it has lactose in it, which is that kind of milk sugar that a lot of the population is sensitive to, can't break it down. So that might be one reason you don't want to use cow's milk. But cow's milk also contains a couple of allergens, casein and whey. And so I'm substituting coconut milk. And what coconut milk and another option for you might be almond milk share that make it a good choice is it has some fat in it. And the fat in the milk helps to allow these aromatic oils to be more well absorbed by the body and actually used. So I'm going to go ahead and pour 1/4 of a cup of coconut milk in, and that's about what you would want per serving. And then we need to think about how we want to sweeten it. Now, in India, they make their teas quite sweet. We're also aware of our intention to not develop diabetes, that you probably want to cut back on the amount of sugar. You know, a tablespoon of sugar is what's used in a cup of Indian chai. I'm going with a teaspoon of honey. I like honey because it's just natural. I mean, it's not processed in any way. So you could also use agave or brown sugar, or you could use stevia or lo hanzo. There are several of these plant-based compounds that are super sweet, and they could take the place of honey. So now that this has steeped for a few minutes, I'm going to give it a little swirl, and then we're going to strain it and make ourselves a cup of tea. So to do that, I've got a big pitcher here. And, before I strain this, I just want to mention these herbs, cinnamon and clove and ginger, we've spoken of their antiviral properties. I've been using a really wonderful product that I'm going to bring onto my website. It's made by the essential oil company doTERRA, and it's called On Guard. And this is an essential oil that it has cinnamon and clove and ginger, and I've been dabbing it on, running it in the infuser, and it really creates a kind of protective barrier. These are antimicrobial oils, and they're really potent, so that's something we'll talk about in another Facebook Live. So right now, we're just going to strain this. And pour ourselves a cup of chai. And in India, they serve it piping hot like this. So there is the chai. And let's put a little dab of honey in it. That's about a teaspoon. And I'm going to top it off. I'm going to mix this up first, just to get that honey stirred into it. And then top it off with the coconut milk. And we have produced a very healing tea for you. I want to wish you good health, and I wish that you could smell it. I wish I could share it with you, but I can't. I'm going to let that cool off 1 second while we wrap up here. And you know, I've had a number of people say they like this and they want more. So I'm excited to share with you that I'm looking at starting kind of a little Facebook membership group, and I want to hear from you. What are your most pressing health concerns? What do you want to learn how to do to grow your health in the kitchen and beyond? Because I'm a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist with decades of experience. So I got a lot to share and teach, so stay tuned, and I'll be back next Friday. I'm still thinking of what I want to do, but you'll be the first to know, and I'll tell you some more details about the Facebook group I'm forming, all right? So goodbye for now. Have a wonderful week, stay healthy, and have a cup of tea on me.